Hi, my name is Adele Kane. Welcome to you all. This is a short video about writing at M level, and we hope you find it of help. Okay, for your mentorship assignment, we're going to expect you to write approximately 4,000 words. The pass rate is 50%. The key things is we're looking for you to be critical, to critically reflect and evaluate your performance as a mentor. Now, we require evidence of deep understanding of the theories, principles and concepts around mentoring and learning. We need to look at the advanced currents and complex issues that are related to mentoring that you're going to find in the literature, for you to weigh them up and to link them to with your own practice. We need to see that you apply research-based evidence, any relevant policies and practice to inform judgments that you would make. And we're looking for evidence of original thought, which is called synthesis. The book Casey and Clark and Hayes you will find in the libraries in the university, and it is quite helpful to have a look at these just to give you some ideas and guidance. We've also provided you with an article about M-level writing, so I would use that to also guide you. We need you to meet the NNC standards for supporting learning and assessment in practice, or if you're an allied health professional, the HCPC standings for education. It needs to be very reflective of these standards, and you need to incorporate that within your work. Okay, we've already mentioned about the research, so look at research papers in your reading and preparation and pull ideas and thoughts and relationships from them. What factors might affect provision of mentorship at an organisational level? So organisation, not your personal mentoring, but the way in which your team or in which your organisation that you work for supports mentorship. Do they have mentor policies? If so, have a look and explore those. We want to see your decision making, the professional guidelines that you have, and look at accountability and actions in relation to mentoring. I need to be quite clear about anonymity and confidentiality. It is not required for you to state where you work and the names of your colleagues, and certainly if you're going to be writing about students that you've supported or learners that you've supported, they haven't given you permission to write about them in your assignment, so please do not refer to them by name. It breaks even both university and also your NMC or HCPC guidelines. So please, right at the very start, put in a disclaimer saying that all names have been changed in lines with the anonymity and confidentiality guidelines. If we can't see that you have given people pseudonyms, then we are going to have to consider awarding a 0 for your work, which is a real shame. I cannot overemphasize that enough. Okay, we've given you 4,000 words, and the skill is writing to those 4,000 words, and we want to see that you can actually develop all that you need to within your assignment to actually be contained within 4,000 words. All right, 4,010, 20 words maybe, or 3,900 and something. Okay. It is one of the criteria which we assess your work. There is no 10% either way. It is 4,000 words. Certainly you're going to need to mention yourself, but you can use such phrases as together with the student, or we decided, or a way forward for us, or a way forward for myself was, goals that we set. Okay, I've used a lot of we's, but there are ways of interweaving various different I's, we's, and us's. Okay, let's talk about planning. Think about these key things. Okay, when do you need to hand in? Is there anything else that you need to do that needs to take priority? Set your own targets and deadlines. I will do all my literature reading by this date. I will formulate my formative assessment by this date. I will work on finalising my assignment at this time. So, milestones then. Literature review, doing your plan, thinking about your reference list, getting your tutor to give you feedback, so that will be your formative assessment, developing the first edition of your work, get somebody else to proofread. It is so easy when you are in-depth, ingrained within writing, for you not to see that grammar is amiss, or spell checks are brilliant but they are not 100% fallible. So get somebody else to read it to see if it makes sense to them. And even often somebody who doesn't know the topic area can say, that sentence doesn't make sense. Get your planning as best you can. The key thing is to be ruthless, as it says there. Really think about what it is you're using, put it aside, sort things into various topic areas so that you can start to build how you want to construct your work, or how you want to include your literature review. It's quite important to be organised with this. I have learnt from my own detriment not being organised in terms of this is what this one's about, that's what that one's about, this is what I want to use. It's so important, otherwise you just tear your hair out, start to get frustrated if you lose your way in the books and the literature you're reading. Don't forget also, we have on the Moodle site, we have extensive e-journals and also full text books and full text journals that you can have articles from, and you can access them through. Now, referencing and citations. It is important to acknowledge other people's work. It shows that your work is built on a respected body of academic literature. So there's two places. First, you cite them in the text, so Joe Bloggs said, and then in the reference list alphabetically Joe Blogs with a full reference. That is so the reader can actually go and look at the reference that you've cited. It's important attention to detail, and it's often things people do in a hurry is miss off dates, publications, publishers, authors, the whole shebang in the reference list. So attention to this is quite important. The assessed documentation in the programme handbook will tell you all you will need to know about referencing, but do ask your tutor if you feel that you need some help because you're not sure about how to go about that. Secondary reference is where you refer to a source that has been cited in a piece of work you have read. Expected at master's and degree level that you actually read that original work and that you don't do secondary referencing. It is expected, especially at master's. If you're doing a literature review, you cannot be expected to say, in Smith, Joe Blogs said. Quotations the same. It's really important you convert what you read into your own words, your thinking, expressions, so we can understand how you're interpreting your reading. If you quote something, it illustrates it. It doesn't tell us what your thinking is about what you've read, and that is very important as well. It will improve your marks not doing this. I need to talk to you about plagiarism. This is copying without acknowledgement. It is awarded a 0. It is formally investigated, and it calls into consideration your professional integrity for the employer and the professional regulatory body. So there's 3 types of plagiarism. Sorry, there are 2 types of plagiarism. One is that you state something that you've read, but you don't acknowledge the author. The other type is you copy someone else's work, and unfortunately we have had cases where other people's work has been copied and submitted as their own. These have been investigated and has been taken very seriously by their employer. Can I add that we will have told you that all work is plagiarised, scanned. All the work that's submitted electronically is scanned for plagiarism, to see whether an individual may have had used a high percentage of other people's work. And all your essays will stay in the plagiarised scanning bank, and therefore if you submit your mate's work who wrote an essay 2 or 3 years ago, it's going to be picked up. Okay, what is expected at master's level? Okay, we're looking that you are exploring what is written, you're writing logically and coherently, you are evaluating what you're finding and critically looking at the literature, comparing and analysing, drawing out principles, using your experience to relate to what you're reading in the literature. So, Joe Blogs says, and in my experience, when working with learners, X, Y, and Z. If you think there's anything that could be important, that's missing, that only a small amount of research has been done in this area, and there needs to be more, then that's what we're looking for. So this is where you start to develop your argument, one or a number of themes that run throughout. So this is what we start to look for when you present your formative assessment. This is why we want to do it. This is why we want to see how you're doing. So give us about 500 words, what you're choosing to write about, what professional standards you're going to be referring to, how that underpins your work, and the sort of literature that you want to use to support the reflection. Please don't write books, articles and journals. What we want to know is the names of the authors of the work that you are looking. So for example, if you're going to be exploring the student-mentor relationship, you might want to be using Wilkes's work on the student-mentor relationship review of the literature. If you're going to be looking at assessment and problems with assessment, then you might want to be looking at Roundtree's work. So we want to know whose work. We want it submitted electronically, and we will explain to you when you're on the course how that actually takes place. So if you don't meet the criteria, you're not going to pass. We need to see that you've undertaken a mentor update. You may well have done that in practice before you started the module, or you will be doing it electronically as part of the course. I'm sorry. We want to see that critical reflection on your mentoring practice. We need to see it linked to the standards, and we want to see the literature. If you do all of those things, then you're going to pass. In your module handbook, there are going to be a section on how your work is graded to give you an idea of what we're looking for, and we will use the terminology to give you feedback that's within that marking criteria, so please have a look. Look at these things, making sure you haven't got spelling mistakes, making sure your grammar's good, good punctuation, don't miss words or use things that, you know, colloquialisms and things like that, and be clear. For example, below. Does that really make sense? Can we really understand? So, it does address the module outcomes. I've alliterated just now what those are. It's really important. Don't write something on each specific outcome. It would be impossible to produce a clear and argued piece of work on that basis. So what we're looking is that you are writing about the outcomes, and if you want to specifically identify ones, or specifically identify standards that apply to what you're exploring, do that very clearly. That would be really good. So, have you got evidence there? Are you using theory? Are you critically appraising the evidence? Did Joe, just because Joe Boggs said it, doesn't mean it's correct, because Sam Smith might have said something slightly different. And quite often you will find that when you compare literature, you will find that one person will say one thing and somebody says something else. If you're actually interrogating the literature in that way, then that's doing really well. So for formative, what it is you're doing, what literature you're using, what sort of critical reflection you're doing, and summary. So let's see. Set your assignment out in this way. What the topic is that you're going to look at, what standards you're exploring, a literature review, explore literature and interrogate. Then your critical reflection. The majority of marks in a critical reflection are awarded for the analysis, so don't get bogged down on description. We did this and we did that and we did the other. Okay, it's your critical reflection on the event, the analysis, that's the key thing that gives you the marks. And then a summary, what you've learnt, and recommendations for future practice. And don't forget, in reflection, you are expected to have recommendations at the end. So that we will be looking for that. So really, when you're looking at critical, this is what you're doing. Is this the right way to do things? Could it have been done differently? This is something you've read. Could that be implemented into practice? You can't find anything on that. Maybe this is what suggestions are needed. You are expected to dig behind things. Have a look. The whys or so whats. What's going on here? Why did that here? You know, why are mentors not failing students? We've had this debate and discussion. So why is it? What's the literature say? What's your own opinions and your own experiences? It's all about now, current mentoring. It's all about what's happening now, and it's all about how it applies to me, and also, what's going on? How could it be backed up? So there needs to be a golden thread throughout, and that's often why picking on the standards to use as your backbone to hang the rest of your assignment on is really good. So again, you're critically exploring, is this how things are? Is this the way they are? Is this how things could be? But don't try to say everything about nothing. Be focused, think about your word limit. Don't try to cover too much. So bring that material in, get the evidence from the literature, relate it to your experience, add any original perspective, so anything that you think you see could be better, could be different. This is what's really going to help. So this is Bloom's taxonomy, and this is what analysis, synthesis and evaluation mean. So, how you analyse, how you appraise, examine, how you compose, construct, create and design. This is what we're looking for. We're looking that you can appraise, argue, assess and compare, defend, judge, predict. These are the sort of things that we look for at Masters Level. This is the evidence that you're going to need to produce that you're actually ability to do that. When do you hand it in? You will have been given information on how to do that. You need to be on time. We won't overemphasise that enough. It is 4 p.m. on the given date. We need declaration that your work is your own. And in the mark sheet in the handbook, or if you're handing in manually, not electronically, you can get a copy of that from Programme Administration. It's really important if you're struggling, or if they're due to sickness or personal circumstances, we would need a form filled in. It needs to be in within 5 working days of the hand-in date. Please contact us. It's really, really important. We do need a form. We do need corroborating evidence, a short statement from your manager. Depending on when your assignment is due in, depends on which exam board it goes to, and this depends on how much time you would have in order to do rework. You can negotiate for a late submission. That's 10 days after hand-in date, and again, you need to discuss that with your tutor. Please contact us if you're struggling. Please let us give you some advice and assistance rather than not bother. Can't overemphasize that enough. So, that was very short and sweet. I'm hoping that what I've done here is to be able to give you an overview of the Master's requirements. Please discuss with us. Please discuss with us. Ask lots of questions. All those kind of things. Please come back to us. In our experience, those who seek tutorial support are the ones that actually achieve, and those who don't always make it. Thank you for your time. I hope you do well and wish you luck.